So I take it the next day, not feeling good at all, getting worse and worse and worse. Do me a favour and get me an ambulance. I thought I was dying.
Would you have sooner died than live like that forever?
Looking back, I feel stupid. Damn right I feel stupid. I think the whole bloody nation should feel stupid. If you take it and it goes wrong, you have no support, the government will ignore you, the NHS will ignore you, mainstream media won't talk about it, you're left on your fucking own to rot. We've still got the NHS pushing it, and they're pushing it on pregnant women. What the fuck is going on?
I don't think many people will ever trust the government fully again.
Month or two after taking on Sunak, phone pings, bank, Twitter account, YouTube account, Facebook, everything you can imagine digital shut down.
You got the full cancellation treatment. The ones that were really pushing it, like Piers Morgan.
Piers Morgan, I hope you're watching, you fucking... I think the man's an arsehole. They're ignoring the farmers, they're ignoring the illegal immigration, they're ignoring grooming gangs, they're ignoring the harms of children in this country, and it's the fucking government, mate.
Do you think it was an attempt to reduce the population? I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Gold Seal. I use their products every single day, and now I finally get to work with them. I use their products for anti-inflammatory, reduced anxiety, better sleep, and mental clarity. I'm going to put a link to their website in the description, along with a 10% discount code for you to take advantage of. Go and have a look at their website, see if there's anything in there for you. I hope you enjoy this week's episode, and good health. John.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been a long time coming, and it's knowing when the right time is that you can now speak more freely about being vaccine injured. And it's not that people didn't want to talk about it, it was the fact that people didn't want to be deplatformed, which puts people in a compromising position. So the first time I saw you, you was confronting Rishi Sunak on GB News live event, and you asked him to look you in the eyes to tell you how you're going to support me and help me through my COVID vaccine injuries. So tell me about that day before we go back to pre-lockdown, because you was a vision of health.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened that day with Rishi Sunak.
So the Rishi Sunak event, if you want to call it, I don't tell everybody how I've said it once, how I managed to get in to the GB News studio. The magician never reveals his tricks, as they say. But for me, I seen an opportunity. Now, leading up to that moment, 2 weeks prior to me confronting Sunak, I believe it was Andrew Bridgen who stood up in the House of Commons or whatever, and he said to Rishi Sunak, they were talking about the post office scandal, and Bridgen stood up and he said, can you think of any other scandals that haven't been touched on, and yada yada. And Sunak stood up and basically said, he's clearly talking about the COVID jags. I use the word jags. And then I'm going to say that these things are unequivocally safe. At that point, I was like, there's no chance in hell that we're ever going to get listened to. And like over the years, Liam, we've done campaigns, rallies, social media. We've flooded social media with our injuries, trying to get help. And it's not just in the UK, in Scotland or England, it's globally. This is a global issue of gaslighting, of ignorance from all politicians around the world, which should be alarm bells for everybody. So I seen a tweet get put out, and it was telling us that GB News were going to have Rishi Sunak in the studio, and I had to blag myself into that studio.
And this is when he was Prime Minister?
That's when he was Prime Minister.
What an opportunity.
Well, yeah.
To confront him.
Yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity. The honest answer is that mine was the only question they didn't know in the audience. And like I said, I've done an event with Dr. John Campbell, Dr. Asim Maholcha. I'll be releasing that soon. and I explain it. I do a whole breakdown on the screen, like showing the questions and how I managed to get in. So if anyone's interested, keep an eye out for that one, because I'll be releasing that soon. And when I got there, you know, I've got a heart condition and I've got a whole load of neurological issues. So I was still very ill at the time. And not only that, I took my friend Adam Rowland, who's also injured from it. This man's been left back staying with his mother. He used to work in the PGA Tour. He worked alongside the likes of Tiger Woods. This is a man that had a fantastic job, and now has lost everything due to something that the governments all around the world told everybody was safe and effective. So even though you see me going after Sunak, you hear Adam in the background. And I think the main thing to take from when I done that with Sunak, again, they didn't know the question. I had to take that opportunity, because with every scandal that's ever been in history, I don't think I've ever seen any victim of these scandals go toe-to-toe or go face-to-face with them and say, we're here and we need help. You can see the pain in my eyes. You can see the trauma in my eyes. Now, do you remember during the time of COVID, it was all this, look me in the eyes, look them in the eyes. They had these hospital beds, and look them in the eyes, and it was regarding COVID. So I just reversed it back. Look me in the eyes. Someone that you told was safe and effective took this thing and shut us down on all platforms and ignored us all. Now, the main message to take from what Sunak said, not only did he ignore us, but he said on national TV that we'll take your details and we'll get in touch with you. And he also threw the medical establishment under the bus, because he also turned around and said, you know, we're politicians, we're not doctors, scientists, we were just following guidelines. So that should be alarm bells for any doctor, any nurse, anyone at all that administered these things. These politicians, they were quick enough to advertise it. Not only that, Sunak had, my belief is that he was heavily involved with Moderna as well. So this man, there was obviously an interest there. There was obviously some sort of money to be made with it. And like I said, this should be this is an indication to tell every single person around the whole of the UK and around the world that these politicians don't care about you, because they know about the harms of them. They're still continuing to roll it out, and he never ever got in touch with me. None of them got in touch with me. Are you telling me that when I took on Sunak, that every politician in that building were not talking about, oh shit, did you see what happened to the boss last night on TV? And then the next day, when I'm driving home, I've got people like Kevin Maguire calling me an anti-vaxxer on Good Morning Britain to millions of people.
That blew my mind when you was referred to as an anti-vaxxer, because I know that you've had 3.
Embarrassing. You know, I'm embarrassed to say I've had 3.
Yeah, we'll come to that, because people have got their opinions on people that had the vaccine. But, I mean, when it all started to unfold and people were dropping down dead in China, and that was pumping through our phone screens on social media and on the news, I mean, I was certainly scared. I'm like, shit, is this Armageddon? But have you seen, so when you said safe and effective, those are the words I remember crystal clear. And since then, I've seen the calamari clots that have been found in the arteries of the recently deceased that were all vaccinated. Have you seen them? We had John O'Looney, the funeral director.
After I'd done that in August with yourself and Tommy that was there, I actually drove back up and I actually done an interview with John. So I went to his funeral parlour. I haven't released it because I know how censored this is. And I've physically seen them in my own, you know, I've held these things.
Same. Shocking.
When I look at them, I don't look at clots. I look at people. You're holding 4 people that are no longer here because of these things. Now, my friend Alex Mitchell, who had his leg amputated from this jag, the AZ one, again, I don't know how far we can go with this.
Well, you know better than me what we can and can't say, because we don't want this removed because the message is
like
insanely important.
It's crazy, isn't it? How many podcasts have you done now and how many have you had to use a code in? How many have you been scared to actually talk about? I mean, this is we've got to admit here. You know, we've spoke before, and we're like, this is a threat.
Can't go near it.
This is a threat to my channel. The level of censorship around this is ridiculous. When what you're trying to do is you're trying to warn people about this. You're trying to warn people about this is the honest answer regarding these things. If you take it and it goes wrong, you have no help, you have no support. The government will ignore you. The NHS will ignore you. They won't want to put pen to paper. Mainstream media won't talk about it. You're left on your fucking own to rot.
It's important to say at this stage that it's not through the lack of wanting. So the pressure that the government put on everybody to squash any kind of pushback on the vaccines, the entire pandemic was beyond any measure. If you was to disagree with the narrative, you were cancelled immediately, and people can't afford to be cancelled. So I mean, you and I know that me doing this now is taking a huge risk.
100%.
But I think it's time.
Well, you know, there's all these words getting kicked about right now loosely. It's ridiculous. I'm warning people to say to people, this happened to me. I don't want it to happen to you. I think, you know, like, Liam, the amount of things I've done to raise awareness on this thing, taking Sunak's just one of them, been in documentaries, everything else, but I actually try and help people. I've raised money for the injured. I took 16 away to a healing retreat with a wonderful woman who runs a healing retreat called Heal Scotland. Took these people away, done breath work. I donate hyperbaric oxygen chambers. I do so much to try and help people. I've been trying to warn people about the harms of these things. That's all I'm doing this for. It's your decision. If you want to take it, that's fine. But you don't have any help. And again, I don't see any evidence to save one single life, because we've got a massive increase in deaths now. Young people having heart issues, cancer on the rise. This was not normal before.
Well, the volume of sudden death syndrome is off the chart. Do you remember? They've managed to squash it, but there was a time where, I mean, if it's caught on live TV, there's no getting out of it. But the amount of professional sports people that were dropping down dead on basketball courts, on football pitches, on American football pitches. And it's like, well, how come all of a sudden there's all these sudden death syndromes post-vaccine?
Well, going back to what you were saying regarding these clots, like I said, my friend Alex Mitchell, leg amputated from it, proven by government. So the government have acknowledged that. Proven by haematology that AstraZeneca caused his issues, and proven by, you know, the yellow card system. He was the first living man in the UK to receive the £125,000, which is pitiful for a man that's lost his leg now. And that man collapsed, and they were removing clots from his body for over 8 hours. 8 hours. They'd never seen that many clots before in his life. Now I'm looking at these things that John Olney had in my hand, and I'm going, that's the vaccine-induced thrombotic thrombocytopenia. This is what this stuff has done to people. And that's what I'm saying. I'm sure when you looked at them, you were just like, wow, but I look at it and go, this is 5 he had. This is 5 people that are no longer here because of something that we now know is causing these issues. And I don't understand how nobody is just as annoyed as me.
You know what it's like. Until it happens to you, you don't understand the magnitude of it. So since I watched the documentary you was in, I found it very upsetting. Pictures of you in a wheelchair, you gained a lot of weight, your mum was beside herself with grief. It wasn't just you, there was other people. So it was when actually I was looking further into the effects of it. To me, I thought, well, it's time. We need to discuss this on my channel. So let's focus on you as a human being. This is a cautionary tale for a lot of people, because who knows when the next pandemic will strike? Who knows when they're going to roll out another load of vaccines? And if they can hear someone like you, they'll have a better balance of information to make a decision, and then it's down to them. I know that I won't be taking another one, but talk to me about your life before the pandemic. Talk to me about your level of fitness, what you've done for a living. You was a chippy on a busy building site.
Before 2020, I was fit, able-bodied, working. I was a machine. I used to go to the gym. I used to do, I was working on the busiest building site in the UK. I was in Edinburgh at the time, at St James Centre. I was working on there, and yeah, I would go to the gym 4 times a week. I used to do this thing called the Big John Barbell Challenge, which was like 10 press-ups, 10 deadlifts. I've got it all videoed. I used to do press-up. This was all at one set. It was like a CrossFit thing that I made up myself. And then I would go and throw weights about. I was as fit as a fiddle.
And how old were you?
34. 34 into the
prime of your life.
34, 2019. 2020 hits. And me and my family go to South Africa. Come back from there, back to work. Now, there is a heart issue before the Jacks. Okay, so I do talk about that. So I'll talk about it briefly. So I'm on this building site, and this week I'm getting some sort of cold. It's happening. Now, they were talking about this COVID coming over, but this was around about February time. And I'm working away. I get this cold. It's getting worse and worse as the week goes on. Now, I was out on the weekend before. Now, usually what happens with me is go out the weekend, have a drink. Tuesday, sweat out the negativity, is what I used to say. You know, go to the gym. That was my doctor. You know, that was my hospital. Going to there, that was my psychology. You know yourself. You go to the gym, makes you feel better. So this week, I just couldn't go to the gym. So I went, right, okay, I was struggling all week. I went to the gym on the Friday, and I was working out, and then all of a sudden, struggling to breathe. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? Next minute, I felt like something was wrapped around my chest, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I couldn't breathe. Cut a long story short, I nearly passed out, and they rushed me into hospital, and they say, we think you're having a heart attack. Now, that doesn't make sense to me at 34, 35 years of age. So I go in, and they slit me open, and they give me a stent in the right coronary artery. And they come back and they say, well, luckily you were fit and able-bodied, you know, fit and healthy. Your troponin levels were very low. Doesn't even look like you've had a heart attack, to be honest. So there was something kind of not adding up. So they said to me, take 2 weeks off work. That's it, you'll be back on your feet. So I go, right, okay. I wasn't never back on my feet. So as time went on, now I know it was whatever this virus was, whatever the hell this thing that was unleashed on the planet. According to my private doctor, that's what I had, right? Whether it was flu, we don't know, because if you actually look at the symptoms of flu, now, I didn't know this, but a lot of people don't know this, but if you've got like a flu or anything, you shouldn't actually work out to sweat it out, because you can actually have inflammation around the heart. Now, if you've got inflammation around the heart, it's actually not good. So sometimes it's better just to rest, which I've discovered now. So during 2020, I was having these issues. It didn't add up. It didn't make sense to go, that was just a heart attack. And I had these like adrenaline dumps, and I had like neurological issues. There was things that didn't add up. And I kept going in and out of hospital because I kept getting these chest pains. I kept getting these, like, I felt I couldn't breathe at times. That happened for about 6-7 months. So, according to my private doctor, it could be something which a lot of people are calling long COVID. But somehow I managed to beat that. Over time, I started to get better, managed to get back to the gym, but it didn't add up to what... Because usually they say, oh, you have a heart attack, you'll be back on your feet, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't. It took a long time to recover from that. So it could have been this virus or whatever it is. It's now, I think it's man-made. I think there's been a lab leak released from Washington recently, which is, you know, create the problem, create the solution. So I managed to beat whatever this was. I managed to get back on my feet. Now, during the pandemic, we were building a business. So when I seen the comments yesterday and people were like, how stupid do you feel in that? At the time, people have got to understand that not everybody's seen what people see now. So when I'm saying, like, we're building a clinic, when you're building a clinic, you've got paperwork. I've got to, because I was a builder, I was doing the works in it. So my focus was on get this clinic up and running, and when the doors get open, we'll be ready to rock and roll. You know, so I'm just listening to the media. I'm listening to the radio, because, you know, you're working, it's on the radio, it was on the motorways, it was everywhere. Now, the thing is, Liam, like, what do I know? I'm just a joiner. You know, I'm just a guy who goes in, builds things, I manage a clinic. What did I know about COVID? What did I know about JAGs? Didn't know any of this stuff. You know, I'd never ever heard that these things were harmful.
Well, I was exactly the same. We're not men of medicine. So when I was seeing it on the news and we've got, top specialists discussing the whole situation and what you should take and how bad a person you are if you don't take it and how you're putting others in immediate danger, you're kind of subtly bullied into taking the vaccine, in my opinion. So when the pandemic was announced, this is what's happening. Everyone's catching this virus that could kill us all.
Yeah.
I, for one, not being a man of medicine, I went into slight panic mode. I was fearful. I did think, shit, I'm not ready to die yet. And they've done a good job of convincing me that this could possibly be the end of the world. So at that stage, I was probably more inclined to take the vaccine myself because I didn't want to die. And I didn't want people around me to die. And that's what we was force-fed on the daily. So I don't think you were silly taking the vaccine at all. I think you were basically swept along with everybody else.
Like when they talked about the hospitals and stuff, I said I had my own health issues in 2020. I've spoken about these things before.
Sort of makes someone with your condition, you should have been advised really
to avoid it.
Probably isn't best for you.
Well,
because you've already got a pre-existing heart condition.
Well, that's the thing. So we can get into that.
Were you clapping for the NHS and all the rest of it?
Yeah. I was out there clapping like a seal, do you know what I mean? Pots and pans, it was kind of like, felt like a bit of community, the neighbours were out, everybody was kind of out and they were all kind of, doing this stuff. Looking back, I feel stupid. Damn right I feel stupid. Damn right. I think the whole bloody nation should feel stupid. I think, when I tell people, I'm embarrassed to tell people, but then there's people out there, I've had 8, proudly, had 8. The thing's still been handed out in a phase 4 clinical trial. This isn't me making it up. This is facts. The government have used every single person around the world as guinea pigs. That's the truth. And that's been proven in the COVID inquiry. This evidence has been given in the COVID inquiry.
I feel like it's the biggest own goal they could have ever scored. It was like an IQ test the world over that's massively backfired because I don't think many people will ever trust the government fully again.
You can't.
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You go back to me confronting Sunak. I'll get in touch with you. No problem. We're going to get heard. Did he get in touch? No. They've never get in touch. They've not done anything. And any MP that did stand up lost their seat. I was dealing with a fantastic man in Scotland. His name was Neil Hanvey. He was fantastic with me. He came from a clinical background. I sat down and done a podcast with him. He understands pharmaceuticals. And his words were, this is the biggest medical scandal in history. In my opinion, it's probably one of the biggest scandals in history because it's global. You can't get any bigger than that.
What information do you remember receiving that encouraged you to actually get the vaccines?
Well, the honest answer is, Liam, I didn't want it. I didn't want it.
Is it because you had to go abroad?
No, well, it was my family. We had family that were medically trained. They had doctor title. We had, my mother had cancer 3-4 times. They were scared, it was one of the ones, you have to take this thing. Like I said, we had family, they were all asking questions, it was all circulating around WhatsApp groups, and they had doctors within doctors saying, oh no, it's fine, it's been trialled and blah, blah, blah. And now they all feel hoodwinked, they feel they're just as mad because these doctors put their reputation on the line as well, and they feel bad because I was the only one pretty much in my family, out of my friends, there was only one friend that was kind of warning me about it. He was trying to say, look, don't take it. And that was it. But everybody else, I knew people that were taking it. They didn't have any adverse reaction. My brother was one of the first. My mum, everybody was fine. I took the first 2. There was no issue. I look back after the second one, actually, and it was maybe like a month or 2 later, and I nearly collapsed in a shopping centre. Looking back now, I think, shit, was that down to that jag? And that was like, so I took the first one, I can't remember, around about the start of the year, February, and then the next one was like 5 months later.
So you had 3.
Yeah, so...
And was there stages of side effects as they went on?
Oh, so the third one, like I said, there's so much to cover within such little time, but the book will be good. Yeah, so the third one, they start talking about the booster, and I'm like, nah, this does not make sense at all. This isn't making sense. You know, first one, second one, now you're talking about a booster, and I'm like, nah. Now, we've got family in South Africa. Now, bear in mind we had the pandemic and everything, and yeah, the family were like, "Oh, come over to South Africa." And we hadn't seen them in 2.5 years. There was newborn babies. The family wanted to see the babies and stuff. And so at the time, Omicron variant came out, and that originated from South Africa. So in order to get into South Africa, you had to have the booster. And it was the biggest mistake of my life. I wish I never took any, but this one was just...
the icing on the cake.
I didn't want it, but the family were kind of like, just get it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, right, okay. I've got to take some responsibility myself. But I tell you, one of the times, I can't remember what one it was, but I remember sitting down with one of the nurses, and I turned round to her when I was going to get it, and I turned round to her and I went, she went, you look a bit anxious. I says, I'm not really keen to get this. She says, I said, well, previous had a heart issue, and I says, I don't, and she went, and she kind of looked at me, this nurse at the time, and I said, nah, I'm not feeling this. And she went, look, John, she put the needle down, placed it down, and she went, I know people that didn't believe in the virus, and I know people that didn't believe in the jag. And she went, do you know what happened? I went, what? And she went, they caught the virus, didn't take the jag, and now they're dead. That's from a nurse.
The brainwashing started from the top, didn't it?
This was a nurse telling me her own experience with this. And again, like, we go back to COVID as well. I now question the protocol the government put in place for that. I don't know if you've heard about it, the midazolam and morphine, the end-of-life care that the government put in place during COVID. So, was it really COVID? Or was it midazolam and morphine that the government, Matt Hancock, ordered up 4 years worth of this stuff and used it within 4 to 6 months? It was called end-of-life care. And not only that, the amount of deaths we now know from COVID weren't actually COVID. I sat down with a woman who's in the inquiry as well. Her brother went into hospital, and, you know, Pamela, she fights for her brother every day, and finds out they put COVID on her brother's death certificate. But then she how many people in this country have accepted that their loved one died of COVID without actually requesting the doctor's notes? Because nobody will do it. But luckily she done it, and she looked through the doctor's notes, and it was all this stuff, midazolam, morphine, ventilator. You put that combination into someone, it shuts down the organs if they've got a respiratory illness. So was there really deaths from COVID, or was there really deaths from the protocol put in place? And again, it's in the inquiry. How can anyone call it misinformation? We know these things. But how many... This is what I'm saying. Why doesn't anyone question it? Why doesn't anyone go and ask, hold on, I want to know what happened to my family member. I want my doctor's notes, and I want them yesterday. And I want to see if that protocol was put in the system.
I'd imagine you've put the whole thing under a massive microscope. Do you think it was an attempt to reduce the population?
Yeah. When you hear, I say, I'm hoping to touch on it later on, but when you hear Bill Gates say it, when you see the people that are involved with it, when you see the same man buying up farmland and stuff, you know, you want a better world, get rid of Bill Gates.
Let's go back to
when I took the third one.
Yeah, talk about the deterioration of your physical and mental health, just to give people an absolute understanding, because it's by no means a joke. It put a lump in my throat watching the documentary and watching how you physically changed. Yeah. And I could see it in your eyes.
Yeah, so I took the third one. I say I got to take some responsibility myself, you know, but again, the peer pressure from government, mainstream media, doctors, nurses, family, it doesn't matter. I'm the one that sat there and I still took it. So I can't blame anyone but myself. Should have went with my gut. But again, because of the whole South Africa thing, was there technically a holiday involved there? I suppose there was. I suppose it was to see family that we hadn't seen for 2 years, and I hadn't seen these newborn babies. But I take it, and I can remember actually, because the same night, so I said to my family, I said, well, if you're forcing me to get that, I'm going to get a PlayStation bloody 5, right, like a big child. And I've actually got a bloody picture of me, this selfie, this PlayStation 5 in the back, after I got it. And little did I know that PlayStation 5 was going to come in handy, because I was bedridden for 14 months and I was playing the thing every bloody day. So I take it the next day, not feeling good at all. Don't feel good, feel fatigued, bit under the weather. I'm like, right, there's something not right here. Day 2, day 3, getting worse and worse and worse. So, back to what I was saying before. So my mate rings me, I think it's 3-4 days after. He says, Mum, we'll go to the gym. I went, right, okay, we'll go to the gym. And I go to the gym, and I walk up the stairs. I'm feeling terrible. I'm feeling absolutely terrible. But I'm like, I'll go to the gym and hopefully it'll get me better. And I'm walking up the stairs. Now, I wear the watch. I wear these watches, not because I keep an eye on my heart now.
Check your heart rate.
I check ECGs and check my heart rate. And I had one of these watches at the time, because I used to just keep an eye on the calories kind of thing. And I'm sitting there, and I literally go in, Liam, and I put on 10 kilo weights on each, and I'm just like,
warming up.
Pretty much. And the fatigue hits massively. I stand up, and my watch alerts me to say, you're running. It'll automatically tell you if your heart rate. So these things can automatically tell you if you're walking along or running. And it said my heart rate was like 188 beats per minute. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? It's saying I'm running. And then I feel worse and worse, and then I don't even do it anymore. And I said to my mate, I need to go and lie over there. I'm just going to stretch out. So I go over, and he comes up and he says, you're right. I go, nah, we'll go downstairs and we'll have a swim. So I go downstairs, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like hitting the cold water, but something just came over me. And my mate's like, you okay? And I was like, nah, I think I'm going down. What do you mean? I says, I think I'm going to, just drop. And it's funny, because there was actually a first aid course on the same day. So it was like a group of people doing a first aid course. So I kind of get out of the pool quite quiet, and I go over and I lie down. I say to my mate calmly, I says, do me a favour and get me an ambulance. And I says, go and get the lifeguard and get me an ambulance. So the lifeguard comes over, and all these people come over, and I'm like, look, give me a bit of oxygen, give me a bit of space. Don't make a big scene, just get me out of here. And they take me into another room, and they get me into hospital. They check my bloods, they ECG me, they check everything and say, no, you're fine. I went, okay. They used to check my blood, and whenever it came back, so whenever you get bloods taken, you get a thing called troponin levels, and that basically tells you if the heart's under any stress. And it was always coming back that my troponin levels were slightly elevated, so that means that the heart was under some sort of stress. And they would do it again, and he said, that must be normal for you. That's not normal. That's not normal, having elevated troponin levels. That's telling you your heart's under some sort of stress. No, off you go, back up the road. Okay. As time goes on, I get worse and worse. Then, I want to say within 2 weeks, I start vomiting every day for at least 6-7 hours. Every day for 6 hours. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I'd have this nausea. I don't know what it was. Whenever the sunlight hit my eyes, I'd be nauseous and I would be vomiting. Get into hospital, telling me it was all in my head, telling me I had anxiety.
Are you being gaslit?
100%. They were telling me I was fine. At one point, this went on for about 3-4 weeks, and I lost 25 kilograms in weight. Because of the lack of food I was getting, lack of nutrition. And they were telling me this was all in my head. for too long. And I didn't even know it was down to the jag. I didn't even think this was down to that jag. I didn't know what was going on because I had the issues in 2020.
It would make sense, wouldn't it? There would be a knock-on effect from
Yeah,
that.
and not only that, we were dealing with blood pressure medications because I had blood pressure issues at the time. And we were changing the blood pressure medications. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe this is the blood pressure medications that's doing this, change. But vomiting every day was ridiculous. I was getting brain zaps. I was getting blurry vision.
What are brain zaps?
It was
shooting pain to the brain.
It was like electric shocks in the brain. At one point, it felt like my brain was just shaking in my head. It was literally rattling in my head. I remember one time sitting in my mother's, and again, we didn't know what was going on. I remember sitting there and I was watching TV. My mother was talking to her partner, and the phone went off, and it was like it was too much for my brain to compute. And I was sitting there screaming, and I went, "Get me the fuck out of this house. Get me." I had to go up the stair, and I cried like anything, and I went, "I don't know what's going on with me, but I believe I'm dying." Because I was still vomiting, I was bedridden, I couldn't get up, I couldn't walk.
Was you shaking?
Everything was just a mess.
Almost like you were in a permanent state of seizure. There was
not all the time. I would have these episodes of seizures.
There was a lady in the documentary that you were in, and she was constantly shaking, and it was very disturbing to see.
Yeah, Georgia, she was having seizures.
Did you have waves of that?
I had like I think about 3 or 4 of them. I remember one time going through it with my mother because I had to actually move from my house and had to move back in with my mum.
Did your mum nurse you?
Pretty much. And my whole family had to nurse me. And I had my brother, I had everyone running after me. It was ridiculous.
Did you think you was going to be bedbound forever?
I didn't think I was going to be there. I thought I was dying.
Would you have sooner died than live like that forever?
I don't know.
Serious question, though.
I'm kind of scared of death, mate. So I'm not really someone that openly says, "Oh, I'm not scared." I am scared of death. So it's something that scares me. So it's not something I wanted.
It's probably why you continue to fight, and the way you continue to fight now.
I remember one time I was in the house and I stood up. So we were trying to find answers. I was going to the GP. I was going in and out. They were all saying it's all in his head. It's anxiety. Giving me sertraline. Giving me all these pills. They were making me worse. They were doing everything. They were just gaslighting. Just constant. Didn't want to look. And we didn't even know it was a jag. So we didn't know. We were just looking like, what is going on with him? Like, we're phoning them up and we're like, you just need to help him. Like, what? And I remember standing up one time. So I was going for acupuncture because I was like trying to go down the route of acupuncture because my stomach wasn't, because I was vomiting every day.
Will you try anything when you're there?
Anything, mate. I will try anything at all to get me better. Honestly, Liam, see, when you lose your health, you realise that everything else is just a bonus in life.
Totally.
Like, when you lose that, the little things like standing up. I was in a wheelchair, mate. Like, whenever I see someone in a wheelchair, I actually walk up to them and say, "Well done," because I've been in there, and to be disabled is not nice.
How did it get to the stage where you were wheelchair bound, and then how did you bounce back from that?
So one time I stood up in the house, and my heart crushed 3 times. So it felt like somebody grabbed my heart and twisted it 3 times, and I dropped to the floor. So I had a condition called POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is a very, very common side effect to these things. So what that means is, when you stand up, your heart rate will go through the roof to 150, 160, 170 beats per minute. And what would happen with me was my blood pressure would go through the roof as well. So my blood pressure would go high. Now, there's different kinds of POTS. The one I was having, what a lot of injured are getting is that one. But in females, what they tend to find is POTS, the heart rate will go high and the blood pressure will drop and they'll pass out. Now, this thing gave me inflammation around my heart. So I got the confirmation of myocarditis. If you've got myocarditis, what that does is it puts inflammation around the heart to protect the heart. That's what myocarditis is doing. So it's basically, there's an inflammation that goes round the heart and it's got to protect the heart. If your heart is going like that, and it's got inflammation around it, it's going to grab it and twist it. And that's why I think that all these young athletes are dropping down, because they're getting a fast heart rate, but they've got inflammation around their heart. These athletes should be getting told these things. You should be getting told, if your heart's not feeling right, you need to get these things checked. If your troponin levels are elevated, because I can tell you right now, Liam, I think if I was doing any exercise, that twisting of the heart feeling was one of the most horrible feelings I'd ever had in my life. And I honestly thought I wasn't going to be here, but the amount of symptoms I was having, and it kept going and going and going. And I'll touch on how, like, let me tell you how easy it was for a doctor to diagnose me. I went into hospital and I kept going in and out of hospital constantly. They just kept walking in and saying to me, it's all in your head, back up the roads. You're not going to have a heart attack, right? I says, I can't do this. I said, you are the guys that are meant to help me. Why are you not listening to me? Not mention anything about the jag. I just want help. I just want to know what's going on with my body and why am I now bedridden? Why can't I get out of my bed? And all it took for a doctor, I remember one doctor walked in and he went, that's exactly what he said. You're absolutely fine. Off you go. Bye. Back up the road. Mentally training. Back into the bed. Thinking I'm not going to be here. What am I meant to do? Next day, back in hospital. Same thing. Vomiting. Everything. Seizures. The list was endless. Couldn't regulate body temperature. The list, I mean, I sent you the symptoms. The symptoms were massive.
I've never seen a list like it. Do you remember a few of the symptoms that you can just rattle off the top of your head?
POTS is one of them.
POTS is rare.
Well, it used to be.
Yeah, because I've never heard of it.
No, it used to be rare. Well, I'll give you an example. I went into my GP, told her about the POTS, and I said to her, I said, you do know there's been a massive increase in POTS since the rollout of the JAGs. She turned around and said, John, in my 27 years of being a GP, I've seen one POTS patient. She says, you're my second POTS patient today. 27 years, she's seen one POTS patient. I went into a pharmacist. And the reason I went into that pharmacist is because I seen them advertising to give people that jag. And I felt like, I have to tell him what this thing could possibly do to people. And you could potentially be harming people by giving that jag out. Sat down, showed him the documentary, sat down with him. Now, one of the medications that they give you is called ivabradine, because supposedly it's supposed to help with the mechanism in the heart to stop you from having that fast heart rate. Didn't want to take it. Anything that plays about your heart, I don't think is safe. I took it, but it wasn't doing anything. And I said to him, have you seen a massive spike in ivabradine since in the last 2 years? And he went, yeah. Seen a massive increase in ivabradine. So POTS was rare, but it's not rare anymore. It's so common now. And one of the conditions I've got now is MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome, which means I can't eat certain foods. I get blockages in my stomach. I can't eat spicy food, anything high in histamine. I've got, they call it FND, which is functional neurological disorder, which is just, I think personally, it's just another lot of crap. It's basically this thing attacks the brain and gives you neurological issues. So now what you're getting on the news is FND, and you're getting all these people saying FND warriors. So see, whenever I see people on social media and they're talking about FND, I say, when did you get FND? How did it start? And when did you get it? Did it happen after the jag? Where's the evidence of that? Well, there's a massive increase since the rollout of the jag. People say, oh, with COVID. Well, there wasn't a massive spike in it, was there? After COVID, there was a massive spike after the rollout of the JAGs. But, I mean, there's just so much to cover.
So, in your opinion, this is a crime against humanity. And do you think the BBC were complicit?
100%. I mean, at the beginning, I was hopeful there was going to be help. People were messaging me, and I do want to touch on when I started to get better, because I do think that's important. And
I also like to end things as positive as I can, because it's good that you're looking fit and healthy in front of me.
Yeah, it's to give people hope. So yeah, what was that question there? So the BBC. So at the beginning, you know, I was kind of under the impression that, you know, this was a mistake. I was under the impression that, you know, they weren't doing this, and I thought, well, I have to be careful what I say because the government are going to help me. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Right.
You felt compromised.
Well, yeah, you felt like the only people that are going to help you. Like I've spent about 50 grand, mate. 50 grand to get my life back. 50 grand. Who's got that? Now you're sitting there, you're begging for help from these people. You're thinking, you know, all the information kept coming out. It was, you know, the Pfizer documentations released back in 2022, the 9 pages adverse reaction. That's, you know, back in 2022, all the injured are sitting there under a Freedom of Information Act. The Pfizer have to release this documentation, which is going to show people the adverse reactions in the trials, which we do know now the trials were flawed. You know, they had the adverse reactions in the trials. And, you know, we're sitting there, and I'm like, this is it. Going to break the narrative. That's paperwork that we're all going to get. What happened 2 days before that? Ukraine and Russia went to war. What did the world talk about? Instead of a JAG that was handed out to the world, a JAG that handed out to the world, people are no longer here. People have got health issues. But the documentation is there to tell everybody that this is the harm that's done. This is the side of, you know, if your health went downhill, here's the side effects from the Pfizer one. But 3 days before Russia and Ukraine went to war, I find that a bit coincidental, you know. And again, Ukraine and Zelensky and all that, I understand that they're heavily involved with all these labs and all that stuff. So, was it a coincidence? You tell me, mate. The whole world was handed the biggest medical lie in history. These documentations are going to come out. And then these two countries go to war, but they've been at war since 2014. So, as it stood at the beginning, I thought, no, I need to toe the line. Then people started to tell me, you need to look into this, you need to look into that.
Have people called you a conspiracy theorist?
Oh, no, yeah.
I think you're off your head.
I don't care, mate. The next politician better be a conspiracy theorist because they're ticking too many fucking boxes for me not to think it's not a conspiracy theory at this point. So as time goes on, start to do research, start to look into WEF, start to look into WHO, start to look into Bill Gates. And as time goes on, you start to see they're ticking the boxes.
What about all the public figures? Do you think they were paid or do you think they were naive? The ones that were really pushing it, like Piers Morgan?
I mean, Piers Morgan, I hope you're watching. You fucking blocked me, mate. Mr. Uncensored. Mr. Uncensored blocked me on his platform. Why are you uncensoring people, Piers? Why are you blocking people like me? You know, this guy who's pushed this narrative, called people anti-vaxxers, called people conspiracy theorists, but it's all coming out now. And only like a month ago, the man was sitting there saying, I sat down with the top oncologist. I know who that top oncologist is. And he's seen a massive increase in cancers since the rollout of these JAGs. And do you want to know one of the reasons I know that this affects people with cancer? When I get blood tests taken at the very beginning, they took my blood and I got the results. I had literally no white cells in my blood. The white cells is what protects you from cancer. So, if I had cancer in my body, I have no white cells to protect me. It would have ended my life within days.
You've really got me thinking. And you're not the first person to say that Piers Morgan has censored him, and the irony that his show's called Uncensored, but he was so pro-vaccine. He'd even ridicule people that didn't take it. He would almost refer to them as cowards for not taking the jab. And for somebody that likes the balanced argument, he likes a debate. I like to create a safe space to hear someone's story. He likes to debate people. You would think he would have you on his show to discuss the aftermath of the vaccine. Have you suggested that you have a debate with him?
I called him out.
So what happened there? Because he played a big part, I thought, for pushing that vaccine.
Put a tweet out saying, you know, you're willing to have people that have been injured by the JAG on your show blocked. Not just one account, but 2 accounts. Now, I had a big account on my Twitter, on my X account. Now, they say that, if you start to make some noise, I like to say, bring the noise. And because they kept shutting me down, that's where bring the noise comes from. Why are you shutting me down? So I haven't even gotten to the bit where I tell you when I discovered it was a jag, by the way. You've got to think of it from the point of view that there's people out there that told their families to take it, and there's family members now crippled from it, and there's family members that are no longer there, no longer here. Would you want to admit that? Would you want to admit to your family member that if you're a doctor or nurse and you've told your family member to take that, and now they've got heart issues, or now they're in a coffin because of something we now know is not safe and effective? And the worst thing about this is we've still got the NHS pushing it, and they're pushing it on pregnant women. Still wanting to push this on pregnant women, even though we knew in the trials they gave it to mice that were pregnant, and all the mice died as well as the babies. And then they were told in the trials that anyone in the trials were not to have intercourse. But we want to give this to pregnant women. What the fuck is going on?
It's the very reason why I remain quiet, and I just made it because I'm not qualified to give people medical advice. So do you think Piers Morgan was paid to push the vaccine, or do you think he's naive?
Well, let's be honest, the man's been in a corrupt system for a long time. Look what he done back in the day with the phone hacking scandals and stuff. I think the man's an arsehole. I'm sorry, but that man has done... Look what he done to Gaza. Look what he done to Paul Gascoigne. It made that man mentally think he was unhinged and ill. He's
done some very immoral things for somebody that is full of virtue.
Yeah, and now he sits there and he puts the same people on the platform constantly, and he's not willing to own up to his responsibility of saying, I got it wrong.
If he was to say, I was under massive pressure, I believed it the same as anybody else believed it, I was scared, I thought we were all going to die if we didn't take it, I've now seen the aftermath, the adverse effects, and I don't think it's a good idea anymore. People would think, fair play.
Well, he didn't. He continues to block me. Like I said, after I took on Sunak, this was last year actually, so this was maybe a month or two after taking on Sunak, and phone pings, bank, what the hell's going on here? Money's been taken out of the bank. Twitter account, boom, shut down. YouTube account, boom, shut down. Facebook, everything you can imagine digital, shut down.
You got the full cancellation treatment.
Not only that, I get home, my laptop doesn't work. Now, I do all my editing on my laptop, and the laptop doesn't work. I take it to a specialist, and he's like, I don't know what's going on with this laptop. He says, I can't fix it. And I says, what the hell is going on here? Coincidence? I don't know. I don't want to sit and say, but one of the big things, like my Twitter account was 55,000, and that was a pain in the arse,
It's a tough old platform to build up that as well.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is, they talk about Elon Musk being the good guy. I don't actually trust him, if I'm being honest. I don't know whether to trust Trump. I thought I did, but 48 hours after of him being in power, he's promoting an mRNA vaccine for cancer. But when I was trying to get my account back from Elon Musk, I was shouting it out left, right and centre, and you're dealing with AI. You're not dealing with a human being. You're dealing with... and I'm paying for the bloody thing, and I can't even get my account back. So, AI is not a good thing, I don't think, anyway.
That's another dark, deadly route we could go down.
Yeah.
When did you find out that it was the vaccine that had caused all these horrible, life-changing side effects that you've suffered with severely since?
Like I said, I was going in and out of hospital constantly, getting gaslit, was doing everything I could, we're trying everything, anything at all. And I ended up going private, so I was starting to pay for private. Now, it was the worst. It was round about Christmas time. It got to the stage that they told me it was that much in my head. I ended up actually going to a psychiatric unit to get assessed. And I said, well, they're telling me it's in my head. And I passed out in the ward, and they assessed me. And what they said was, at the psychiatric unit, they said, whatever's going on with his health is affecting his mental health. Now that, to me, was very powerful, in itself, because I wonder how many other people are in this country right now that have got mental health issues because of their physical health.
Plenty, I'd imagine.
Well, I didn't want to be here, Liam. I did contemplate taking every pill, and I told you earlier on I was scared to death. That of Aberdeen, I could have taken every single pill, rammed it down my throat, and it would have stopped my heart. It was that bad. So eventually I go to a private cardiologist in Glasgow, and he sits down with me, and he says, now, like I said earlier on, with the POTS, they didn't want to diagnose me, they just telling me it was all in my head. So I literally walk in to the doctor, he puts the oximeter on my finger, puts the cuff round me, and he says, stand up, things pinging away, like a bloody fruit machine, you know. And then he sits me down and he says, have you heard of a condition called POTS? And I say, no, what the hell's that? And it's postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So then he starts to say, your heart rate's going like that, blood pressure's going through the roof. And then he turns round to me and he says, now this is round about January. And he says, have you had any JAGs recently? Any COVID JAGs? And I went, well, I had my booster back in November. He said, right. He said, he said, when did this all start? I went, round about November time. And he went, and I said, do you think it was that? He looked at me and I looked at him, and he kind of gave the look as if to say, yeah, but I can't say anything. And I went, right, okay. So he left me with a bit of food for thought. So then I leave the doctor's appointment, and I'm in the wheelchair. That's the picture you seen. So that was actually that at that time.
And you was a lot heavier by that stage.
I think I just had lots of layers on, to be honest. I think I was still very ill. I think I'd lost a lot of weight at that point. I think I just had, because my body wasn't regulating temperature. So because
your legs look really inflamed.
Because because it was winter, so I would put on so many layers at the time. So I was just that cold at the time. I was just layering myself out. I said, I had a picture of me and I was like stick thin because I'd lost so much weight. So then I get home and I message my mate who's kind of warning me, and I said, I've just been to the cardiologist and he thinks it's down to this JAG that this is happening. And then he went, he went, watch this. And he sends me a podcast, Joe Rogan and Robert Malone. And I look at it, and Dr. Malone talks about how he got hypertension, which is basically the same as POTS, from the Moderna one. And then he started rhyming off fatigue and all these. And I was like, the penny's dropped. That's it. It must be it. So then I started to do a bit more digging, and I was like, nah, 100%, it's the JAG that's done that. And then the new world comes, you know, they call it the Matrix, well, then you start to see the real side of what's going on in the world. I then put the picture of me on the wheelchair. Now, a lot of people knew my health had deteriorated, but nobody knew why. So I put this thing on Facebook and my Instagram, and I said, I've been bedridden for 2.5 months at this point. I believe I'm dying. I'm begging for help. I don't know what to do. This happened to me because of the COVID JAG. It's up to you if you want to take it, but this is what's happened to me, just to let people know. Next minute, Facebook starts going ping, ping, left, right and centre. Instagram the same. They were the only two platforms I really used at the time. Didn't use Twitter X.
Meta really, really did come down on the censorship, didn't they?
Within 2 hours, boom, Facebook ban, Instagram ban. And I'm like, what's going on here? Why have I got a ban from telling people about my health? And then it starts to circulate, the followers start to go up, and then all these messages start coming in, and I'm just like, wow. Did
you find there was a community of people with exactly the same symptoms as you, or similar?
It took a while to find that, but then I started to see more stories, and it was like you couldn't find them. People had to send you people were sending me on the DMs, and they were saying, check this account out, check that account out. And then I started to see what these things were doing to people. And then I realised that I wasn't the only one.
How did that feel to know that it wasn't just you? How did it feel when you finally realised it wasn't in your head?
You know, they talk about some sort of spiritual war and there's good versus evil going on just now. Now, someone reached out to me. Like I said, mate, I thought I was not going to be here. I believed I was dying. And I always tell this story because, I don't know, like they always say that you'll turn to God or whoever it is up there, spirit. And someone reached out to me and they went, John, I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but I advise you go and buy a cross and you start praying to whoever it is. So I go online, buy the cross. Arrives, and I can remember at night I'm sitting there and I'm in my mum's bedroom and I'm looking out and the sky was like clear blue. I can remember this like it was yesterday. One of those clear blue skies. And I just stood up and I grabbed the thing as tight as I could and I went, I make you this promise right here, right now. If you can get my heart better, get me out of my bed, do anything to try and get me in any way at all to have any quality of life. I'll make you this promise right here, right now. I'll make as much noise about this as possible and I'll try and help as many people as I possibly can. So I go to bed. 2 days later, this woman on Instagram, she messages me and she says, John, I've seen your story circulating online. And she says, God's screaming to me to reach out to you. And she's telling you, she's saying, I want you to get in touch with this doctor. So nothing to lose. I've been through enough doctors and I went, right, okay. And I phoned this doctor up. The man comes out to my bed and I tell him everything. I say, I think I'm dying. And he reaches over and I tell him it was down to the jag and he says, I believe you. And that's all I had to yell him.
I believe you.
I believe everything you're saying. And he says, I'll get you better. And then after that, we done a GoFundMe because I found a treatment called Govt. I had to we raised about £12,000 within 48 hours. Which, like I say, we spent a lot of money of ourselves, but a lot of money of our own money. But this was like a Kickstarter because we'd already been spending so much money. And then after that, like I said, I don't know, like the power of prayer or manifest, whatever. But I feel like when you make a promise to whoever it is up there, you have to stick by that promise. And so the amount of, 40 hours we raised this money and we got me this treatment Goldic and then we had the documentary Safe and Effective and then everything's just tumbled from there, And yeah, I've just been ever since starting to get better, but I was bedridden for 14 months.
That's law of attraction right there, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, mate. It's been
you made a deal with God and then someone listened to what you had to say and believed you.
Yeah.
Not nice being called a liar or being doubted, especially when you know yourself. It's like my body, I know the symptoms. I know that 1 minute I was in the gym, the next minute I'm in bed.
Yeah, I mean, the level of side effects to this thing is astronomical, It's rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, POTS, MCAS. The list is endless. Like, there's so many people out there that have got these health issues now and they're believing the doctor and I'm just like, and because I've been in that situation, I'm like, when I knew what the problem was, I then knew how to get the correct protocol, get the correct diet, get the correct procedures. Do you know what I mean? So if I know what it is, and it wasn't pharmaceuticals that got me out of this situation where I got out of my bed, it was fucking a hell of a lot of praying, a hell of a lot of breathing techniques, a hell of a lot of hyperbaric oxygen chambers, a treatment called Govt. I was taking a gamble with that. You know, I had to take my own blood and centrifuge it and put it back into my system. I was taking anything to try and get better. I was willing and determined, mate, to get better. And since then, I've been trying to not only find others, but trying to get everybody to realise we were all fucking lied to. We were all lied to. It doesn't matter. I'm going to say it. If you took it and you're fine, there was a placebo effect handed out. Like, the amount of red flags behind this thing is unbelievable. Like, even just the fact that the nurses didn't even aspirate the needles during injection. I mean, what you do is you inject the needle, you're supposed to draw it back. And if there's blood in the syringe, then you need to throw it away. But they weren't doing that because that means it would be going right into the bloodstream. But the nurses were just putting it in and putting it straight into people's bloodstream. This is the kind of stuff the NHS done. They didn't care. It was just jag them, get them out, and sit there for 15 minutes, and hopefully everything will be okay. But they didn't tell you could lose a leg. Didn't tell you could have spinal strokes. The amount of people I know, mate, it's ridiculous, and I can't believe the amount of people that have been harmed by it. And the government, I mean, when are the NHS staff just going to stand up and go, "Hold on a minute here. There's something wrong within our establishment. We're now busy. We were all tricked into this." But they're still willing to hand it out. It's crazy, mate.
Are you part of any support groups?
Well, there is one in the UK. It's called UK CV Family. They're on Facebook. I'm not the founder of them or anything like that, but there is a UK CV Family.
Is there somewhere people can go that have experienced similar things and haven't been listened to? Because like you say, the power of somebody listening and believing has got you on the road to recovery.
Like I said, I do. Like I say, I know good doctors. I've got a fantastic team behind me that have helped me. It's crazy because I can sit and talk to someone that's been injured from it. Well, I spoke to a guy 3-4 weeks ago, and he turned around and went, "You've made more sense than any doctor I've spoken to in the last 2 years." How crazy is that?
How are you feeling within yourself these days?
I still have my days where I'm stuck in bed. I still have my days where I'm
fatigued. Comes in waves.
I've got, like, right now I might look okay, but I'm like off balance, dizzy. You'll see me with the sunglasses on. The reason being is because I've got neurological, so I get like these black eye floaters and they're like really prominent. Still get the gut issues, but I'm not in my bed. I don't have signs of the POTS, which is one of the hardest things to beat. So I've managed to beat the POTS out the park. But how I'm doing, better than I was back in 2021. And I try and give people hope. That's the main thing. But for me, mate, I just feel that there's something bigger at play nowadays.
Something bigger than us.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people that fell out of me because of that was ridiculous. And trying to make people realise that when you're defending the mainstream media and defending the government, these are the same people that handed you a lie, and when it went wrong, they fucking turned their back on you all. Understand that, get that through your head. If it went wrong, you were left on your own. No help, censored, left. It didn't care what colour, this jag didn't care what colour of skin you were. It didn't care what religion you were. It didn't care where you came from. This thing harmed the people, human beings around the world. At what point do people stand up together and say, there's a problem? There's too many things going on in the world right now, Liam, and I'm getting sick of it. We now need to come together as one. They've ignored the harms of the COVID, the harms of the jags. They've ignored the families regarding the midazolam and morphine. They're ignoring the farmers. They're ignoring the illegal immigration. They're ignoring grooming gangs. They're ignoring the harms of children in this country. We all have the same bloody people causing the problems. And it's the fucking government, mate. If all causes come together, which they don't want us all coming together. Because if we come together, it's the goal, the game is up. Can we not get together for children at least?
We're on the same page. There's a catalogue of betrayal from the top, and I think by now there's been enough of it in sequence for us all to be honest with ourselves, like the eyes don't lie. So don't kid yourself that they are lying. It's been there. It's all laid out for us to see. We cannot trust them. And we've got to pull together.
100%. Like I said, all causes need to come together. Right now, as it stands, I'm seeing, you know, in Glasgow, Scotland, there's two big rivalries in football. Rangers versus Celtic. Now, that comes from Catholic and Protestants arguing amongst each other. What I've witnessed in the last 6 months, 7 months, we stand back to Ireland, where these two football teams technically came from. The background comes from that. We had the North and the South standing there hand in hand, saying, there's a problem in our country, and we're uniting. If everybody can put their differences aside to realise what the end goal really is, mate. If football fans can actually realise there's an end, see once you see this, mate. See once you see what the end goal is, nothing else fucking matters. When I know what they're planning, now we've got all these power cuts happening in Spain and all this. But then we had the WEF, Klaus Schwab telling us, we're going to have a cyber attack and we're going to have all these structures all breaking down. What's the scariest thing for me right now? Although the Jags are important, call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. These things are in the fucking plan. You know, we've got the farmers getting ignored. How important is that? When do we all care when we've not got food on our plate? I'm speaking to the farmers right now. The farmers are all getting ignored. These farmers are the ones that feed us. Then we've got these 15-minute cities. Oxford, 2020 was the beginning of the end. That was the Trojan horse to see how complicit this country and world would be. Prove me wrong.
The IQ test world over.
The IQ test, and I hate to tell people they're still failing it. They fooled me once, they will not fool me again. In Glasgow and Edinburgh and all these city councils, they call it the 20-minute livable neighbourhood. Why do we need that? But they're going to sell the dream. They're going to sell you all the dream and tell you all, it's all to tell you you have a doctor here, hospital, Tesco, everything you need within your 20-minute neighbourhood. But they're not going to tell you that, you know, that you're harming the planet because you're travelling so far. They're going to give you these digital credit scores and all these carbon footprint tax, whatever the hell it is they want to call it. They're implementing this stuff all slowly but surely, mate. And I believe that 2020
was the beginning of the end.
Was the beginning of the end. And like I said, they've ignored, if I can watch this progressively happen from country to country. In America, I've seen all this stuff regarding the trans stuff. Again, who's got an issue with trans? We don't have issues with trans. We've only got questions when they're trying to educate our children on it. True or false?
Oh, 100%.
So then I see in America that they were doing this in America, mate. And I'm sitting going, that won't come to Scotland. There's no danger that Scotland, you know, the freedom, Bravehearts. Then I fast forward a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, what did they have at the Edinburgh Fringe? Drag queen story time. I don't know what was said at it. Was it harmless? I don't know. Then we started getting all this more division and stuff. I don't have any issue with trans people, mate.
Whether it's harmless or not, it's unnecessary.
100%.
Like, no need.
At what point do people realise that they're ignoring all these causes? They've ignored the harms of the Jags. They're ignoring the farmers. They're ignoring it all, mate.
Final few things. Tell me what your purpose is. Tell me what your future is, and then tell people listening where they can find you, because there's a lot more to your story and you've got a lot more to say. So your purpose is to help heal other people.
Help other people. I mean,
support and steer.
As it currently stands right now, I'm actually in the process. Like I said, I work with other people doing healing retreats. So a woman called Lilia, she's a phenomenal person. She's in Scotland, she does healing retreats, and we take all these people away and we do breath work and we do all the things natural, you know, to help people. And I just want to try and help people. I'm in the process of opening up another clinic in Scotland to hopefully help people. And there's a charity getting set up, so we can hopefully coincide with the charity to get these people help, because the funding is one of the major things. That's what I'm saying. Why am I having to pick up the NHS's problems? Why am I having to pick up the government's problems? It's ridiculous.
When you see what they're paying landlords to house illegals,
yeah,
but that's another story.
Yeah.
You've got a podcast as well.
Yeah, mate, just like I said, it's called Bring the Noise podcast. Pretty much like yourself, doing what the mainstream media I feel should be doing. Interviewing people that have been harmed by the Jag, interviewing people that, you know, have been locked in women's prisons with men. There's just... once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like I said, going to give a shout out to a bunch of people. Every single person that's been doing all the activism work in Glasgow, around the UK, been shouting about these Jags, fucking fair play to every one of these for never backing down. Love every single... They go out with the yellow boards, and every single one of them that do it, the outreachers, every single person that stood up, God bless every single one of these. There's Oracle Films, the guys that done the documentary, Safe and Effective, A Second Opinion. They're just about to release another documentary which basically ties in with Big Pharma and everything that's going on. I would advise every single person, not on just in the UK but around the world, to watch that documentary. The world that we're getting into is scary. It is frightening. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
So where can people find you? Because I'm sure people will probably want to fire some questions at you direct. What's your X handle, and are you on all the other ones?
Yeah,
Meta?
just on X, it's Bring the Noise _X. YouTube's just Bring the Noise podcast. It's just a new one. It's just, like I said, I've had 5 accounts.
X is the safest platform for you, isn't it?
It was, yeah. There seems to be freedom of... You've got freedom of speech, but there's also freedom of reach. It seems that certain things are still getting... You know, it's funny because I can put one out regarding them spraying the skies. Again, that was another conspiracy theory. It just came through, you know, they've just told the whole UK that we're now going to...
Block the sun.
Block the sun. Why? So that the farmers can't grow, so that people can't get... You know, the sun heals so many people, mate. So, yeah, Bring the Noise _X, podcast, Instagram, just Bring the Noise podcast, Bring the Noise. For me, mate... Just like, you know what, I'm going to give you a shout out as well, mate. Right? I'm going to give you credit where credit's due. Most people...
About time too.
Well, most people do these things, but they don't stand with the people in the country. And at least you got up and you stood... At that time, I seen you in...
Leicester Square.
Yep. And you stood up there, and then you had to cover another one, because the man get taken away.
I had to cover another 2.
Yeah.
I'll be glad when he's out.
Yeah, well, at least you stood up and you done it, mate. And obviously when you seen me, I mean, I just...
Let rip.
Just pure passion, mate. When I know there's people died from this, Liam, it breaks my heart. I speak to family members that have lost loved ones from this, and it breaks my heart. And but the world we're getting into does not look good. And I'm sorry, but Keir Starmer... This goes above him. He's how can the conspiracy theorists, if you want to call it, predict? How could I predict that this man was going to be the biggest dictator in the UK before he even got in power?
I mean, beforehand, he just appeared to be a stumbling, bumbling fool. And then the Southport riots happened and he appeared and the devil was there, in my opinion. But we're not going to go down that route. We're going to wrap this up. Otherwise, it's going to deflect from your message. John... I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for trusting me with your story. If you got to the end of the interview, like and subscribe to the channel, because these are the conversations the mainstream media do not want you to hear. And I will continue to platform people that the mainstream won't, because people need a fair balance of information. So I'm very grateful for you sharing it with me, mate.
Appreciate it, mate.
Get off, brother.
Thank you.